I'm here with my council colleagues, the Honorable Councilman Jack Weiss and Councilman Jose Huizar. There's a few items we can probably move on consent, but before we do that, as you can tell, the acoustics are not the best. So if you need to have a conversation, please take it outside. We would appreciate that very much. When you do come to the microphone, give us your name and address. Your name and address. We have a 2-minute clock as you come up right to your right in front of our city clerk's desk. So some of you I know might have worked hard on a written presentation. If you can pull out the most significant messages from that letter so you can keep within the 2 minutes, you could submit that letter to the clerk and it'll be on file. So appreciate your cooperation there. Currently we have several items I believe we can move on consent. These items are, we'll be calling 1, 2, and 3 special. Number 4, these are for staff reports. Number 5, I don't see any cards on 5. No cards. We can approve the amended CEO recommendation to fund in the amount of $217,535.16 from the Construction Services Trust Fund for remodeling of the Department of Building Safety San Pedro Construction Service Center. 6, we can move on consent. Number 7 on consent. Number 8. Number 9. Number 10, we can move consent with the change. That is the following, that the parking spaces will be 210 parking spaces to correlate with the downsized square footage of the project, which is 7,259, correct?
Yep. Sorry, 72,596.
Okay, that's the number. I don't have my glasses, so excuse me. So that will downsize at the top level with 210 parking spaces. Number 11, we could continue to July 15. Number 12, we can move on consent. 13A, we can continue to plumb on June 10th, to the council on June 24th. 13B will continue to plumb on 6/10, and the council on 6/24. 14A will continue to May 20th, as well as 14B, May 20th, and 14C to May 20th, all going to council on June 4th. 15, we don't have a report, and 16, we anticipate a report from the planning department next week. Okay. So that takes us to number 1, Roberto?
Before we go, pardon me, CLA. Before we go on, this CAO had submitted, in reference to item number 5, 2 or 3 other amendments to their report that should be on the desks, and I just want to make sure that you approve those too.
Okay, so we will include the CEO report?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
All right, thank you very much.
so move that with the item.
It's the amendments, Councilman.
The amendments that were specified verbally, okay. Thank you. All right, so that brings us to item number 1, Roberto?
Councilman, item 1 is a motion-wise rule. It's directing the planning department and BOE to remove some requirements, some conditions from the zoning administrator's decision.
Okay. So you have a staff report on that?
I believe it's a referral to staff, Councilman.
Which is referring to staff?
To engineering.
Okay, we do have cards on this. Councilmember, did you want to?
Yes. It's the first time we hear it in committee, so we're going to give the department some time to respond back, Councilman. And work with your office. I believe there were some amending language that was submitted, and that's already been provided to the clerk.
Okay, we're fine. Well, let's call these cards. They've traveled over here to the City Hall, so welcome. We have Sister Philomena Murphy and Andres Fogg?
Andrew Fogg.
Andrew Fogg.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, please.
We just wanted to say thank you for the support on this. The issue here is mostly whether improvements will be made.
Can you move the microphone closer to you so we can hear you?
Absolutely. Both the community, local HOA has written a letter in support of this request, and we would just ask that the motion, we understand there's an amendment which we're fine with, be approved to allow the project to go forward without actually having to do the improvements to Manning Avenue. I think there's broad consensus that those improvements aren't required at this time and probably will never be required to serve either the capacity or the general plan for that area. And we thank your support. Sister Philomena, who's the administrator of the site, is here, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. That's it.
Any questions?
No, I'll make a statement. But
Okay, Sister, would you like to also speak? You can say ditto.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I guess I didn't realize when I looked at the item that it was a direct the staff to do the work sort of deal. I will just state, on the offhand chance that the amendment is not there, that we do want to amend the moving clause of the motion to waive the street dedication and widening requirement recommended by BOE. We've all been working together on the traffic issues, and we'll continue to do that. But everybody agrees that this is the appropriate waiver. The homeowners agree, and Sister, you have a wonderful, wonderful organization, wonderful institution, and my staff, Ms. Hannigan especially, we really appreciate the chance to work with you and hope we can make this a success for all of you, and I'm sure we will. Thank you.
Okay, so that'll be the action of this committee. We'll refer to staff with all the stated changes.
And asking the BOE to work with CD5 as well.
Yes. Roberto, number 2.
Number 2, Councilman, is a motion Reyes Gruel. It's requesting the council to approve changes to the Bicycle Advisory Committee, and I believe planning staff is present.
Okay, can I have staff come forward? This is Department of Transportation staff, right?
Yes.
DOT, okay.
Michelle Mallory, Department of Transportation.
Jordan Turner, City Planning.
Okay. Can you give us a Reader's Digest version here? Go ahead.
Okay, the quick version is that the Bicycle Advisory Committee has been in place for over 30 years. Historically, it's been staffed by the Department of Transportation. It is a 19-member body with 4 appointed by the mayor's office, 1 of each coming from the 15 council offices. The mayor appoints the chair at this point. They are advisory to the Department of Transportation and the city at large on issues regarding bicycling, whether it be mountain bicycling in the parks, bike lanes on the roadway, bike parking, whatever. They do also have input on the bicycle plan. The motion seeks to...
Can you speak into the microphone? It's hard to hear you.
I'm trying to share with Jordan here, and I'm not helping.
Okay, you guys can do it.
The motion looks to reorganize the committee. Staff is happy to make some recommendations and come back and address each of the concerns addressed in the motion.
Okay.
Ditto.
Okay. In terms of concerns from the Department of Transportation and planning, as you stated, it's been around for 30 years, and we're trying to elevate the role of bicycles and the priorities for enhancing the environment so it's safer and desirable and convenient. What changes do we need to make, or what other approaches do we need to take to elevate the presence of bicycles as a mode of transportation in the city?
Some of the strengths of the Bicycle Advisory Committee are based on the strength of the council office appointing the members. If the council office is very supportive of bicycling as a mode of transportation or mode of recreation, we tend to have more motivated Bicycle Advisory Committee members. Some of the members have been around a very long time and have have a long history with the committee, but maybe aren't as up-to-date on some of the new environmental movements and are more recreational based. That's not to say that recreation isn't important, but transportation does seem to be the big push right now.
Perhaps, as we discussed previously, if we could provide a status of the different advisory committee members to respective council offices. Excuse me. So that each council office is aware of level of participation of their appointees. And that way we can enhance the level of communication between the council officers or appointees and the work of the committee. And this is something we can have a report to the council members just to give them a status of how many times they actually go to the committee.
Yeah.
And that way we'll get a better sense of the level of participation and input.
Currently, DOT does send a set of minutes that actually has attendance of the members to each council offices following the meeting, but we're happy to do a spreadsheet that shows participation over the last 12 months or more.
That'd be great. Any other questions, my colleagues, on this? Okay. Thank you. We have some cards on this item. We have with us Stephen Box, I believe. Steve Itano, NC Box, and Joseph Brayali. Please come on up. Got your 2 minutes. Give us your name and address.
Stephen Box. I live in Hollywood. I have a spreadsheet here with the attendance of the Bicycle Advisory Committee.
Oh, look at you.
Our purported representatives. They almost averaged 65% last year. One member didn't show up the entire year. This body, which some critics would say is somewhat ineffective in representing the cycling community, had 10 official actions last year. 6 times they approved the minutes. 4 times they agreed to write a letter, although there's no evidence these letters were ever written on behalf of the cycling community. We would like the Bicycle Advisory Committee to be a representative body that truly functions effectively and advises the city on bicycling issues in the city of Los Angeles. In fact, we're pleased that you're considering this motion this week, which is Bike Week, in what's known as Bike Month, in what we like to refer to as Bike Life.
Okay.
And so I've brought for you a flyer. We're having a bike instead of work day on Thursday, because after all, why would you want to ruin a good day working when you could be riding your bike all day? But on the back of it, you'll see the Cyclist's Bill of Rights, and number 8 is that cyclists have the right to full access and to be actively engaged as a constituent group in the organization and administration of our communities. We appreciate this particular motion and the effort to make it a functional advisory body, and we thank you for considering it. And I'll leave these with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that'd be good to see. Next speaker, please. Give us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Steve Itano. I'm a native-born Los Angelino. I'm 60 years old. I took up bicycling about 10 years for health reasons, and then started by going to the grocery store, then to the bank, the post office, and now pretty much any trip that I need to make that's probably under 10 miles, I do on my bike. That has made me a political advocate for bicycling because it's just not very safe out there. So I started going to the BAC meetings, and I was really surprised at how they were run, the lack of democratic process, blah, 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 lots of things. But mostly I want to point out is that when I got here, I live east of downtown. There's not a single bicycle path that comes in to downtown. I rode around the building. There's not a single bicycle rack on the building that represents the citizens of this city. What do? They need help. They need to be expanded. You know, I would just like to see them have more resources, a little more sensitivity to what average citizens need. Recreational riders, whatever. But if you look at the bike path, the river path, the one section that goes through an actual neighborhood is garbage.
Right.
The one section that goes through where there are no houses at all is beautiful. They got a huge bridge. You know, so I think their focus needs to change. And I think maybe by changing some of the nature of that committee would be good. Thank you.
Just for your background information, the strip that looks like garbage of the bicycle path on River, I think we finally settled the last property issue that was holding us back from being able to have access to the whole corridor from Fletcher Drive down to the Pasadena Freeway.
Oh, that's great.
So we're hoping in the next couple of years, the engineering will be in place and we'll start construction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, good morning or afternoon. My name is Nancy Box. I live in Hollywood, and I'm an actress. I'm involved in all my unions. I'm involved in different committees, and I teach at AFI. As a member of my community, I'm involved with the neighborhood council, and I appreciate the support that the city gives me and that I'm also able to be involved here. As a cyclist, though, I have really struggled the last few years to get involved with the Bicycle Advisory Committee. That is supposed to represent the cycling community, not the Department of Transportation. And I thank you for this opportunity and for bringing this motion onto the table to change the structure and change, hopefully, the chairman and the committees on the Bicycle Committee. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Afternoon. My name is Joseph Brayali. I started the Bike Oven, a community bicycle repair collective that's in Councilman Reyes' first district. And I'm here to ask that, I'm sure you guys were going to pass this motion anyway, but to thank you very much for considering it. It's something that is necessary and vital to this city. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Oak Tree Ordinance, Protection Ordinance, that came out of a similar citizen committee that had a little bit more help from other city departments that had to do with trees on private property. Very little has happened in the bike committee the last 30 years because it's not really a place for citizens to really get the tools and help they need to start drafting ordinances to help cycling as a mode of transportation. And this motion would help amend that. And it's a very, I mean, if you were to ask me 3 months ago, hey, what do you want to do to the bike committee? This is pretty much exactly what it needs. So anything you guys need to get it moved beyond transportation on the council floor, please let me know. I help organize small community events, and I'd be glad to bring some people out to speak in support of it again. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I believe I might have overlooked Eric Richardson.
Hi, my name is Eric Richardson. I live downtown and am a cyclist as well. I have attended probably a half dozen or so Bicycle Advisory Committee meetings over the last 2 years. And I think that what this motion has the potential to do is really create the committee as more of a place where people can come and get involved by creating the structure that's there to facilitate real discussion. The cycling community over the last couple of years in LA has really exploded, and there is just a great community of people that want to come out and want to help make this city a great place to go ride a bike. And so I think that part of it is helping to invigorate this committee by adding some more structure to it. And part of it is the responsibility of the council offices as well to really make sure that the people that they are placing on the committee are there to engage the community and there to really bring this community that wants to get involved and figure out how can we create a structure that ends up working for the greater good of cycling throughout the city. So I encourage this step and encourage sort of that additional action as well. So those of you who are here, and feel free to pass that message on to your other council colleagues as well.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Okay, I believe that concludes the public hearing on this item. So colleagues, if we could approve and refer this to Transportation Committee, then from there we can get it to council. Is there anything else?
I believe you also wanted a report back to Plum Committee, Council.
Yes, after Transportation?
Yes, in 30 days.
In 30 days, okay. Yes? Okay. Well, thank you. That's yes across the board, so thank you very much. Our next item, Roberto?
Item 3, Councilman, is a motion Reyes Rosenthal instructing planning and DOT in your office, CD1, to report back on land use policy directives as part of the new bicycle plan. I believe also the planning department submitted a report during the committee meeting, and the clerk has it.
It's on the desk, also on the desk.
Okay, so we can have the staff come on up. And
Good afternoon again, Jordan Turner, Department of City Planning staff. Before you in the report is a summary of our current efforts for our bike plan. A lot of the ideas set forth in a motion we're currently considering, i.e. bike boulevards, increased signage, uniform signage. To start, our efforts with Department of Transportation began in 2006 with the hiring of our consultant team, Alta Planning and Design. And this past winter, February and March, we've had 4 regional workshops, well attended, mostly by the bicycling community. One in the Harbor area, one in the Valley, one in South LA, and the last on the west side. During the summer, we are going to be conducting meetings with the kind of recreational mountain community, because there's been an emphasis on the interaction between recreational bicyclists and cyclists kind of along the roads. And so we feel there needs to be a specialized meeting with that. In the fall, we'll have more workshops to go through a draft bicycle plan that we're hoping for adoption sometime winter '09.
okay, anything else like that?
One of the things that was important to us with the city this size is to make sure that we had opportunities for additional public input. We recognize that to do public meetings properly and to include the amount of public input we'd like to do in a city of 4 million people is almost impossible with a budget like ours. We have about 20% of the budget. It's a $450,000 project, funding supplied by DOT to do this, that we'd have to bury almost that entire budget into public input if we didn't find an alternate way. So we required the consultant as a part of their scope of work to design a website. They've done a survey on the website that assesses bicycling interests and needs, allowed for comment, as well as a mapping tool so people could pick their favorite bicycle routes and make recommendations to city to upgrade and integrate those into the new plan.
And so what are the main goals of the bike plan update? What are the main goals of the update?
The big thing about this plan that makes it a little different than the last plan really looked at the arterial network and developing implementation policies. And that plan was developed over 94,
When you say
96.
arterial, you're meaning all the main streets.
I sound like a transportation engineer.
Such as?
Big boulevards like Santa Monica Boulevard, a lot of the major roads in the valley like Plummer or Devonshire were selected for bike lanes due to their width and allowed reduction of the size of the travel lane to put in the 10 feet that we need additionally for bike lanes. Most of the problems with implementing bike facilities, I would be the first one to pick getting rid of a travel lane, or this is probably heresy in my department, or removing parking citywide to get a bicycle lane in, but those are not decisions that can be made at a staff level. We have a highly congested city that we're coming back and retrofitting. So what this plan is actually looking at is a collector network of bicycle facilities. And we're looking at bicycle boulevards as a part of that process, but essentially to take streets that have less cars, lower speeds, and can we make those bicycle priority streets throughout the city?
So if a council member wants to get up early in the morning and ride their bike, and they are a little leery about just how busy the big streets are, we might have other streets that parallel these main streets, that are residential streets, perhaps?
A little larger than residential, but signalized or stop controlled at each arterial point, but absolutely, that's the concept.
So we would have striping and physical changes that would allow for a bicyclist to feel safe going through those pathways.
The consultant is recommending, and we certainly agree with this at this juncture, a number of treatments, from a very baseline treatment for a street that currently works very well for bicycles. It might be wayfinding signage to identify it as a bicycle boulevard, and maybe some adaptation of the stop signage and things like that, to a very high-end model which would include diversions for cars to reduce the number of cars using that right-of-way, move them out to the arterials, but allow bicycles to travel freely throughout the corridor.
And so what kind of community outreach is being conducted to get the feedback I mean, what's the strategy there?
We've done the 4 public meetings, as we mentioned. Internally, DOT...
So you've already done 4 public meetings?
4 public meetings to get us going. The website input, we have over 1,000 comments back on the website now. Postcards that are in the libraries and the council offices. I hope, Jordan... Okay, and there are some in the back, Jordan tells me. So we've a number of methodologies to do that. And all the materials from the public meetings are posted on the website. There's a link from the DOT site, and there's a link directly from the consultant's website as well.
And so what's the schedule for adopting the master plan?
The schedule is hopefully final adoption by winter '09 with the go-through commission and then our city planning commission and then council. So we're looking at February, March of next year.
March '09?
Correct.
In terms of implementation, what's your next step?
It's kind of twofold. Some of the ideas we actually like to see codified. There's a lot of good suggestions in our current bike plan, but a lot of them actually haven't just been translated into actual code. And so we'd like to see those kind of get in the code book, kind of get on the ground so that they're kind of law of the land, so they will be followed. In terms of actual projects, just like any good plan, in order to get momentum, we'd like to have a few demonstration projects to show all the hard work that's been done and to show that actually can be changed within a city. So we would be looking citywide and would love, any volunteers, if you will, to take on any of our suggested demonstration projects.
So how can the council and the staff be more supportive in this implementation?
We have a couple of things going on now. We certainly, Jordan and I have been attending neighborhood council meetings and making presentations on the bike plan. I've got one coming up this weekend. There's one the following week. Any neighborhood councils that want us to come in and talk about the bike plan, we're happy to come and do our dog and pony show. It's kind of a mini version of the consultants overall, but it gives folks a good idea of how traffic engineering happens for bikes and what the goals of the next plan are. In addition to that, I had a note here, but go ahead. Sorry.
One other thing within the city planning department, as you guys are well aware of, our community planners are out there conducting 12 community plan updates, and with them, we're asking them to provide us the feedback of anything they hear bike related. So that's kind of, we're not there personally, but we're asking them to give us anything they hear in relation to bikes as they're talking to neighborhood councils or homeowners groups or whatever community groups are out there. Anything they hear, they give back to us, and that's been very helpful as well.
There is a technical advisory committee with a member from almost every department in the city family that might be touch bicycles in some way, shape, or form. DOT doesn't do the roadway repair, as most of you know. We don't have control of the potholes, and the maintenance, and things like that that are very important to cyclists. We would like this to be a higher priority than the other departments, and so we've created this technical advisory committee that's providing input to the plan and can see the consultants' work as we go through. It'd certainly be my hope that that group continues and to meet at least once quarterly to address issues for bicycling citywide and hear some of the concerns. Right now, DOT hears most of this, but we don't have control over all the issues.
Okay. Any questions from my colleagues on this? No? You can get a status report from planning and DOT in 30 days. I understand we'll be referring this to Transportation Committee, but I'd like to do is just maintain a certain amount of focus so that we can perhaps create a different sense of urgency on perhaps putting these facilities together and making this a more bike-friendly city. So if we can do that, colleagues, we can get a status report in 30 days referred to Transportation.
And you may also want to adopt the recommendations in the Planning Department report, Councilman.
Yes.
There's 3 recommendations.
Yes, let's include those recommendations. They're in the report, and for the sake of time, I won't go through each one verbally, but the recommendations, I believe, will allow us to continue creating a sense of urgency in getting this done. In particular, item number 3, recommendation 3, regarding the Municipal Code 12.21 and 91.6307. So what's in the report, I don't need to read this verbally, right?
No, Councilman.
Okay.
Well, we're going to adopt the recommendations and the report and move it on to Transportation with a request for a report back in 30 days.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Okay, folks, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item.
The next item, Councilman, is a motion Smith-Reyes. It's requesting the Planning Department and the City Attorney to report back on an outline on the sober living homes ordinances that the cities of Murrieta and Riverside have enacted, and also asking the planning department of the city attorney to provide land use recommendations.
Okay, now the
Before we
planning
go on,
department-
we have one more speaker card, council member on item 3.
I'm sorry?
Did you address the speakers, all the speakers on 3?
Oh, on number 3, I did
Yes,
not.
okay.
Sorry.
Want to go back?
Mr. Box, come on up. I jumped the gun there.
Sorry, thanks, and I appreciate your suggestion for the enhanced application of the Bicycle Master Plan in District 1. The Bicycle Master Plan, based on results, often harsh but always fair, I would suggest is less than a meaningful document at present, and I don't think there's much hope for it changing into a meaningful document until a couple of significant steps are taken. The first one is to lay down the word equality over and over, and again, the Cyclist Bill of Rights starts off with the fact that the 6 E's include equality. The Bicycle Master Plan focuses on engineering, but it leaves off the other 4 E's, which would be very significant opportunities. The Bicycle Master Plan as it stands is not even available in the transportation element of the general plan. It's a forgotten document that is a funding execution step, but it's not even included if you go to the planning documents or planning publications. And so for this particular document to have any meaning, it already has codified application of some of the standards. We just don't do anything about it. So until we address the fact that it's got to be something with teeth, it's going to be simply another document that gets done by another consultant and goes on another shelf. We'd like to see it become something meaningful and real. To that point, only 140 people, of which I was there 4 times, attended those outreach meetings. Even the Bicycle Advisory Committee couldn't get it on their agenda in time. The outreach was so minimal. So the Bicycle Advisory Committee, which purportedly is a partner in the TAC, wasn't even able to offer an opinion on this particular endeavor. So in that sense, we have been struggling to participate. We would like to see the Bicycle Master Plan become a meaningful document, but it's a long road to hoe, and we're far off the mark at the rate and the direction we're going. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We did get a card from someone with the LACBC 634 South Spring, but we didn't get a name. It's okay.
Hi, that's me. I'm Alex Kennefick. I'm the president of the LA County Bike Coalition. And,
Sorry, can you spell your last name?
Keneffick.
Okay.
I just wanted to this week is Bike to Work Week, and kind of preaching to the choir for most of these bicycle people, but I just want to tell you about my bike ride in to work yesterday morning. I live in Alvarado Terrace area, so near Alvarado and Pico, and I was on Pico, just going those 2 blocks until I could switch up into the grid of those nicer, calmer streets. But there's 2 blocks that I have to go on Pico. It's kind of narrow and it's not very fun. And I'm getting into the left turn lane so I can get into the grid and ride down calm streets. And a big cube truck passed me by and honked at me, and I'm totally in the left turn pocket. And I looked in the side view mirror, and the guy is smiling and laughing because he scared me, and he could tell. And it's just a real bummer for the beginning of Bike to Work Week. And so it's just, I just wanted to tell you about that's the kind of stuff that we deal with all day long, the fear and stuff. And there's been progressive kind of reactions recently to bus drivers squeezing the bicyclists, and people are meeting about that, and things get better. I guess what I wanted to say is that I'm really hoping with the Bicycle Master Plan update that the city of LA really dives into the implementation phase. My philosophy is kind of like, man, anything bicycles at this point. I know that there are safer and less safe ways of dealing with bicyclists, but whatever that plan concludes, I'd like us to go whole hog into it. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the time, and safe driving. Okay. NC Box.
Hi again. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to make a general comment about the Bicycle Master Plan as well. The 4 meetings that were held in February and March, the money that was spent on those meetings probably could have been better put to use, and the presentation could have just been posted on the website because it was not interactive. It did not include the cycling community or those 140 people that attended these meetings. I attended 3 of them. So I hope that you will keep us, the bicycling community, updated of any bicycling master plan and bicycling issues, because we're fighting hard to get involved, and the Department of Transportation is not doing outreach, they're not involving us, and the Bicycle Advisory Committee is not involving us either. So please keep us updated. You have our contact information. We would like to attend these meetings and put our voices in to support you in this bicycle master plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Marks. Okay, I think that does conclude number 3. I think I covered all my bases on that one. So let's move on with number 4, please.
Item 4, Councilman, is a motion Smith-Reyes. It's asking the Planning Department and City Attorney to report back on the sober living homes ordinances enacted by the cities of Murrieta and Riverside, and it's also asking for land use recommendations from staff.
Okay. On number 4, we have... okay. I blew it on that one. We have several cards on this, but go ahead, Steph. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Kuza from the Code Studies Unit. And the motion before us identifies the following: that sober living homes provide supportive environment for those recovering from alcohol and drug addiction. That overconcentration in residential neighborhoods creates problems to the detriment of the quality of life of the neighborhood. And staff has been asked to prepare a report regarding the experience of other municipalities and to make recommendations. We need to understand that sober living homes can only be regulated as part of a general category of group living homes, such as boarding houses and rooming houses and homes for the elderly. Regulation of sober living homes as such is in violation of fair housing laws prohibiting discrimination against the disabled. Recovering drug and alcohol abusers are considered disabled and thus are protected. The reasons for the regulation and increased regulation are that sober living and other group homes can have negative impact on neighborhoods through overconcentration that changes the character of a residential neighborhood and as a source of nuisance activities such as noise and increased traffic. Enforcement is complaint-driven, and this leads to a building and safety investigation. The planning tools that are available include the nuisance abatement process and the prohibition of rooming and boarding houses in R1 residential areas. Other cities have recently prepared ordinances. These include Murrieta and Riverside, both of whose ordinances are invalid because they define residents on the basis of whether they are related or not. The courts have found that such definitions are in violation of privacy laws. The Newport Beach Ordinance, which was passed in January, is the most comprehensive ordinance regulating sober living homes, this thick. And within 2 weeks, 2 lawsuits were filed, also this thick, one from the operators of sober living facilities and one from residents. And so we have been looking at the experience of this ordinance and at the lawsuits that have been filed. The action that we're going to take, that we're recommending, is that we will prepare a written report in 30 days that will include an analysis of Newport Beach and the other municipal ordinances, and we will make recommendations.
I'm looking at the summary of this report, and Councilmember Smith, back in October 2007, when the motion was submitted. We considered it in January 15th, 2008, so it's been long cycles. What's keeping us from moving? Is it the fact that we are dealing with this legal issue? Are we looking at, what's keeping us from moving forward?
I'm not prepared to speak to that. Maybe someone else is. It just came to my desk recently, so.
Right, because again, it's It's something that Councilmember Smith asked for back in October, and it just strikes me that when the cycles have been this long, I just want to know what's keeping us from moving forward, and I think it's important for the constituents and the council office to hear.
Alan Bell, City Planning Department staff. There was a little, actually, to be honest, there was a mix-up in terms of where this assignment ended up. It didn't end up in the Code Studies section, so we didn't actually get this assignment on our part of the department until 3 weeks ago. So I do apologize for that mix-up, but something that we can resolve, certainly within the Code Studies section, and get this written report to the committee within 30 days.
Okay, so kind of got lost in the work program, and it surfaced under Code Studies.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any questions from my colleagues on this? No? Okay, we'll start with the speaker cards, and we'll go from there. I know the council office is here. Would you like to speak first or last?
Phyllis Winger, representing Councilman Smith, maker of the motion. I have to admit that I'm a little disappointed at the report that I just heard. I did expect more. I knew this would be a status report. I had hoped we would have some status. I think bringing up failure at the front end is not the way we need to proceed. No one said it would be an easy task to come up with something that would ultimately provide the city the ability to control these uses. They are impacting our communities citywide. They do create impacts that are very difficult to deal with. It's too early to throw in the towel and say because other cities have been sued, we can't do it. I think we need to rise above it, come up with a better definition, come up with a good set of defensible controls, and go forward with something meaningful. The councilman is going to be very interested in hearing the report in 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Jose Martinez from District 3.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair, Councilmember Weezer and Councilmember Wise. Here today, you're going to hear some requests or some reports from some constituents in regarding to the issues they're facing with sober living houses. We try to enforce it through building and safety, through planning department. However, the law is very vague, so there isn't anything the city could do to try to stop them or try to regulate them. And it's more of a quality of life issue, not only to the constituents, not only to the residents, but we want a compromise, or we want something that better fits all parties. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. The Chief of Staff had to step out, and I am just speaking on behalf not only of the constituents in City 3, but other council districts who express the same concerns. I thank you, and I wait for the report as well.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to have maybe the city attorney come on up on this case.
Good afternoon. Deputy City Attorney Amy Brothers.
Thank you. In dealing with this issue, legally, technically, what options do we have, and what is the direction you feel we need to undertake, given what was referred to in terms of the other cities and what they're going through? Can you give us some guidance as to what your position is and how you see this unfolding?
The motion asked us to have a look at what other cities were doing. And we were specifically referred to look at Riverside, Murrieta. And we looked at those, and they have impermissible sections that are something we definitely would not want to emulate. They are defining the residents of a sober living home using an impermissible definition of family.
You say impermissible?
Impermissible.
In the eyes of the court.
Right, absolutely, under case law from California case law. coming out of a Santa Barbara case and the Santa Barbara Ordinance. Specifically, they've defined family as unrelated individuals. In other words, unrelated by blood, marriage, or adoption. That is absolutely impermissible. Riverside also puts certain requirements on a sober living home that other group living facilities don't have. And I think what Cynthia Cusa mentioned earlier is very important. Sober living homes are a group residential facility, and they should be regulated like other group residential facilities. They should not be singled out for any particular special or inequitable treatment.
Because we'll lose if we do that.
Absolutely. We've got to treat the disabled in a way that treats them as anybody else, and residents of a sober living home are disabled. The other thing is, disabled folks under the disability laws have to be given reasonable accommodation. In other words, they have to have, let's say with regard to zoning laws, a way to have a waiver from the zoning laws if it prevents them from living as other people do. So any ordinance that we would want to have here in Los Angeles would ensure that if our zoning regulations regulate sober living homes and other group residential uses, we would also have a waiver for them, a waiver procedure because they are disabled. This is some of the things that I've come to in the research I've done. The other thing is Newport Beach really has enacted the most comprehensive ordinance we've seen in this state. The courts are involved now with 2 separate cases challenging different aspects of that ordinance, and they are dealing with issues that haven't been dealt with before.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it was important to hear your perspective because there are going to be a lot of folks speaking right now to this item, and I want them to understand your posture as we move forward in this case or in trying to address this policy matter. So with us we have, thank you, Nichan Kulukian. Please come on up. And then we have...
While that speaker's coming up, council member, we do have a statement from the Chatsworth Neighborhood Council that's on the desk.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. We have Lena Kasani, I apologize, and then Lloyd C. Ray. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Please, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the time. My name is Nishan Kalukian, and I am a stakeholder of North Hills West. I am an elected board member of North Hills West Neighborhood Council and chair of the North Hills West Neighborhood Council Land Use and Planning Committee. After extensive research about unlicensed and unregulated sober living homes, both myself, my committee, and the board of North Hills West Neighborhood Council, which serves over 20,000 residents and stakeholders, we have found out that many of these sober living homes are located in residential areas and house over 15 to 25 people in a 3 or 4 bedroom home, very much like overcrowded boarding houses, with a clientele that is very rowdy, noisy at very late hours, bottles of drinks or cans of soft drinks and other garbage thrown outside in neighborhoods' backyards or in our streets, and on many an occasion disturbing or harassing passers-by, many of which are elderly or single women, women with babies, and children who need to traverse the road in front of these houses to and from school. Such homes are a nuisance to the neighborhood and directly disturb the neighborhood's quiet, composed, and safe environment to such a degree that no one wishes to live near an unregulated and unlicensed sober living home, which demonstrates negative impact on any neighborhood's quality of life. Add to that the negative impact on property values. However, we have also found out that controlled, regulated, and licensed sober living homes render a valuable service to the community for those in need of rehabilitation in such facilities. Example, people who suffer from alcoholism, drug addiction, parolees, probationers, even sex offenders, etc. The North Hills West Neighborhood Council has passed 2 resolutions on April 16, 2008, in support of SB 992 and AB 724, and sent copies of the same to the President.
Thank you very much. Please submit your letter to the clerk. We'll make sure we finish it. As I was asking...
May I just read 3 lines, please?
Just finish, please.
All right, so thus the North Hills West Neighborhood Council strongly urges the Planning Land Use Management Committee to consult with city attorneys, come up with a set of regulations, requirements and licenses and permits and city ordinances governing sober living homes to make sure that they serve their intended purpose, at the same time safeguarding the quality of life and safety of our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
And copies of resolutions are attached here, Mike.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker? If you have I'm sorry, if you have a letter, let's get to the meat of the letter. Okay, but thank you.
My name is Jelena Chanyi. I'm a resident of Chatsworth, 10853 Topanga Canyon. I'm also a board member of the Chatsworth Neighborhood Council, which represents and is the voice for over 30,000 residents and the city's largest remaining industrial and manufacturing zone. I'm sure you know that. The letter that I have submitted to you in general is written to Councilman Smith and saying that in our meeting on April 2nd, we have passed unanimously supporting the Councilman's motion to regulate these homes. These regulations are desperately needed. As a private citizen, I would like to add something also.
Please.
Again, these regulations are desperately needed. The ones we have in place are sometimes not working. If there is an incident in a home, what happens is they say, the home didn't do anything, the residents did it. The residents will be punished, the home stays in place. These are not homes, they are businesses, and very profitable businesses. They are in areas, they are placed in the areas that are zoned for single family homes. It is morally wrong to impose these businesses on a peaceful community without even a notice. Why the secrecy? Most of these homes are veiled in secrecy. Why is there secrecy if there is nothing to hide? The only reason we know how many we have in Chatsworth, and it's over 40, is because of the word of mouth. I am extremely active in our community and I know what's going on. If you need a jail in Chatsworth, build one. If you need a recovery center, build one. But don't put it in our community so we are afraid to go out in our street. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please, Mr. Ray.
Thank you. My name is Lloyd Ray. I live at 15949 Chase Street in North Hills. I'm also a member of the North Hills West Neighborhood Council. My area of expertise is land values. I'm an appraiser, have been most of my working life. I'm past chief appraiser for Coast Fed Mortgage Company, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Coast before they were swallowed up. We did business all over the United States. The point is that the American Planning Association, who is the advocate for the sober living houses in many cases, continually put the proposition that more than 50 studies have showed that the sober living houses do not impact the values of adjoining or neighborhood houses, even the house next door. I endeavored to find out the source of some of those studies and found only one. Most of them are conducted by psychologists and psychiatrists, which I'm sure that these houses are beneficial to the inmates they're in. However, they do have an impact on the neighboring houses. To say that an appraiser would not make an adjustment for a non-conforming institutional use next to a single-family house would be ludicrous if it wasn't so serious. The only one that came close to being accurate or objective was from the Baltimore County, Maryland. It was prepared apparently by the county assessors. They found, not that they never had an impact, but their control groups found that in 57.1%, they showed a decrease in areas where the sober living houses were located. I don't know of any of these that actually did a before and after appraisal of the house next door, down the block, or anywhere else, which in my opinion would be necessary in order to substantiate any kind of a finding. However, they also found in the same report that
please.
They found in the same report that 42% the values increased, and they attributed that to the presence of sober living homes. My only point is that it's wrong, it's incorrect to assume that they do not affect property values. They certainly do.
Thank you,
Adversely,
sir.
I might add.
Thank you for your testimony. We have Nina Royale. I believe it's Jackie Dyer. Petty Burris, please come on up. And then Cliff Ruff. You already spoke? Oh, already. Mr. Martinez, all right. Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Nina Royal. I am the chairman of Sunland Tahunga Safety and Emergency Response Volunteer Services. I'm also on the safety committee and vice president of the Sunland Tahunga Neighborhood Council. Our region has more than its share of sober living homes. In fact, approximately 8 months ago, we had one where residents were living in a home that was rented from an outside owner out of state who had not a clue that they had 25 people living in this home. The school was approximately a block away from a school. Now, I have alcoholism in my family. The recidivism of alcoholism and drug abuse is very, very high. My stepmother took out, neighbors on both sides took out their cars in their yards. This is extremely dangerous to have these type of homes anywhere near a school. So there has to be some type of regulation. There has to be accountability. There has to be responsibility by the owners of these businesses because, like this lady did say, they are businesses, and most generally the people that own these homes do not live there and do not even live in the area. So please, I am asking you to put in rules, regulations, make accountability, and don't put them all in the same areas, particularly in single-family areas that have children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Dyer?
My name is Janice Dyer. I'm a whole family, longtime resident since 1955 on Aqueduct Street. What I would like to say, I found out a lot about the sober living homes by being out having petitions signed for other things. People in the neighborhood telling me, oh, there's a house up the street, there's one over here. I'm finding there's way too many. And word of mouth, I found out someone that leased their house out to make money. And I can't see where the people are being helped that are living in these homes. And what I would like to know, if they're coming from prison, drug alcoholic, they need some type of assistance to help them get back on their feet, get out and go to work. And I don't see this happening. And the incident I will tell you of, there was one man running a facility, and the next thing you know, he was on drugs again himself. He was put back in jail. They moved everybody out of the house. Now they have someone else there, and they're back in again. But was this person helping those people, or was he helping them get back into drugs and whatever? But I believe a conditional use permit would be good, because if they had to file for a conditional use permit, people in the neighborhood would know ahead of time. They could be checked on how they're going to run the facility. Are they going to have someone there to help these people? And also keep them spread out, because we're just getting inundated. There's too many. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi. Peggy Burgess, 8960 Aqueduct Avenue, North Hills. You know, while the city dawdles, our neighborhoods are suffering. They're being destroyed by addicts, alcoholics, parolees, probationers, including sex offenders and paranoid schizophrenics. Neighborhoods are being harassed. Our children can't play in their own yards. We can't park or walk in our own neighborhoods. Unlicensed, unregulated, unpermitted sober living homes are a blight on our communities and do not belong in single-family neighborhoods. These are simply boarding houses, charging $250 to $500 a week per bed, and often housing 20 to 30 individuals. Transients with no stake in the community. Many are owned and operated by convicted felons, and per LAPD, much of the neighborhood crime emanates from these homes. There's no supervision, no mandatory drug or alcohol testing, no one to guarantee schizophrenics stay on their meds. There are no restrictions and no eviction policy for repeat offenders who are free to come and go at will. We need an ordinance with teeth, and we need it now. Licensing must be required. These homes must be restricted to multiple density zones, and number of inhabitants must be limited. They must not be located within 1,000 feet of schools or of each other. A conditional use permit must be required in any zone. California law does allow cities to adopt zoning restrictions and require conditional use permits for such facilities housing 7 or more individuals. So please, let's stop with the excuses and give us an ordinance and give it to us now.
Thank you, ma'am. And that was near the 2-minute mark. Very well done. Thank you. We have Dave Beauvais, John Hegedus, John Saletos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dave Beauvais. I live at 17515 Horace Street in Granada Hills. I'm president of the board of Old Granada Hills Residents Group and on the board of directors of Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council representing community organizations. About a year ago, an unlicensed sober living home opened up 2 doors down from me. I live on a pretty nice residential street. I am now living the problem of sober living homes in residential neighborhoods. Continually, police and fire and paramedics coming to the home. Continually, transients to and from the home. So far as we can discover, this is an unlicensed facility. Now, I freely acknowledge the need for sober living facilities, and I really don't even have a problem with them in residential areas. However, having said that, my personal experience from my work experience is that people get treatment when they are in managed, supervised care, not simply living in a boarding home. If we're going to have residential, sober living facilities, there are requirements and conditional uses that should be placed on such facilities, including that the structure and grounds be kept in reasonable condition, that limits on the number of patients in each facility, no more than 2 to a bedroom, and a strict limit on the number in the facility, 24/7 supervision by licensed professionals of that facility, that the patients must be in a structured program within that facility, or if they're in a program outside the facility, that transportation is provided for them. And finally, that emergency and police services are notified each time such a facility is opened. That is reasonable, and it is not discriminatory. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Beauvais. Our next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is John Hegedus. I'm a stakeholder. I live in Granada Hills. For interest of everybody here is Councilman Smith and Phyllis Swinger have been very supportive. I'm the one that brought this issue directly to their office and supported them in terms of getting paperwork and all this stuff. I'm very disappointed in the city attorney's office thus far. I've been living this hell for about 15 months, and I have a son that is scared to sleep in his room because he's afraid someone's going to come and get him. I have a situation where we have no way of having the police department come in and check out. Fortunately, this situation that we had here, the home has been shut down through the diligent effort of the neighborhood getting and working with our police department. However, with the situation that we have here, the police's hands are tied, fire and safety's hands are tied, building and safety keep on saying that that's something that they can't do. They have no laws to basically follow up on. The city attorney had mentioned a couple cities, the city of Marietta and the Riverside Ordinance. I encourage the city attorney's office to look beyond that and not just focusing on the city of Fontana. I think it's also in Orange County. Several cities have adopted this, and is basically they find the right language that does not basically discriminate against any party. I think if they use the right language and put it together, they should look at Costa Mesa. Pasadena just passed an ordinance based on what they've seen other cities do. So how is it that municipalities around us are passing laws that help control this situation, and our great city of Los Angeles can't do it? And I thank you for bringing this up as how come these people are just getting back to us now. I brought this to Councilman Smith's office in February, March of 07, and now we're just standing here talking about this while our community is suffering. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Council member, committee members, my name is John Salitos. I'm at 17946 Index Street in Granada Hills. I'm in the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. I'm the committee chair for the Planning and Land Use Committee that we have. We appreciate the motion that's being brought forward at this time, and for the city attorney to review those things. And would like to encourage you to do that and appreciate your help and support in that manner. As I've listened to the city attorney, I appreciate their input on the laws of residential income, and would ask that as the report's prepared that they look at all the avenues and expand into conditional use permits, into business regulations, into some of the other items that have been mentioned, such as boarded living homes and that, so that the report will be adequate so that the council members can make an appropriate decision on the facts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That was under 1 minute. That was really good. That was good. Maria Fisk. Tamir Dayan, I believe, or Dayar, and Yvonne Dupree, and then Laura Schussberg. Please, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Fisk. I'm from Old Granada Hills Residence Group, Granada Hills South Council. I live at 17421 Horace Street. I'd like to pose a question to all of you who are here at the committee today. Have you ever lived next door or down the street from a sober living home or any other type of a facility? Okay. All we're asking is for you to consider your neighborhoods as well as our neighborhoods. The experiences that we've had, let me share just and bring this a little bit more personal to you. We've had several in our neighborhood, and it seems that there's an overconcentration of these in our neighborhood. I can't speak to that because the problem is there's no way to know. The situation is veiled in secrecy. I'd like to also address the city attorney, the statement that was made about equitable. We also have elder homes, children homes for children and child care, but these people who live in these type of facilities do not do their business in the street, if you know what I mean. I've seen that with my very own eyes. They do not go to the grocery store and steal liquor. We don't have to have irate citizens signing petitions trying to get fire people to put out fires, police officers to regulate these institutions because there's some type of a crime going on there. What can we do as a city to untie our hands? All we're asking for is what you expect out of your own neighborhood. Something that is safe, something that you expect that you can walk down the street. Please help us untie our hands. I'm sure that the city attorneys, with their infinite wisdom, could craft some type of legal prospects, some type of a legal ordinance that would help us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Tamir Dayan, and I'm a victim of one of those houses. I just bought a house and built a nice house for my 2 little girls, 3 years old, to be safe and play. And what's happened, I have to share a fence of 300 million feet. It's only 48-inch high, and 20 people sitting watching my little girl. We cannot let her play in the backyard anymore. And it's come to a point that some parents even cancel a play dates with the hours because the smoking cigarette that's coming, they don't want their kids coming to our house. But regarding the nuisance that we can talk in for hour here, For the city attorney, he say that she says they cannot do anything. They can do a lot and stop it as a business aspect. Right now, it's become a major business, a major income, and the one next to me, it's a business that it's a college that's running on a commercial zone and have a facility like extension business in a residential zone. They're bringing people from out of the state. It's not even for our community. Most of the people, they are out of the state that coming to stay there, and they're making money this way, and my property value going down, my piece of enjoyment of my backyard, it's going. My wife cannot stay home by herself. I have to leave to my brother wedding next month. I'm not going because my wife don't want to stay by herself at home. And there's a lot we can do and stop it as a business aspect and business opportunity to people. Then those houses will go away. And just one more thing on behalf of disability, instead to open an elderly home, everybody going to change the language and say that they are opening disabled people and put 200 elderly people in the house. And my facility, they have a drug rehab, and instead to call it a drug rehab, they call it suburb living, and they bring the treatment 20 feet away on the commercial zone. So now they have a drug rehab under a name of suburb living, and they're exceeding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the time. Our next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Yvonne Dupre, and I guess the best way I could describe myself, I represent myself, my house, my home. Now, as I sat there, I looked around and I wondered how many of us have relatives who are either alcoholic or drug abuse or in some way connected. And I know in my heart that I know that I'm a victim of one of my relatives. I don't want him living with me. I don't even want him living next door to me because I know what the outcome is. No matter how long you try, one of my cousins is 55 years old today, and you know what? He's still a drunk. No matter which way you slice it, he still wants to get in someone's pocketbook, or someone's, still a little here. He's not going to change. I'm sorry, but it's not, I don't want him in my backyard. And even if he were my relative, I would probably pay money for him to go to some place where he can be monitored because he needs help, and I know that. And so hopefully you don't put us in our backyard again. Because putting him in my backyard, I would only sign more petitions and keep calling you back and forth. And that's not necessary. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last speaker. And I do believe Councilman Wisar has a question for our planning and city attorney. So please, ma'am, give us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Laura Shrewsbury, and I'm from Venice, 2477 Glendon Avenue. I'm here today because 10% of the houses on my block are now either sober living facilities or rehab centers or detox areas. What is happening is that the owners are clustering facilities so that they can maximize profits. So what they do is they buy a house for almost $2 million, which is above the property values that we can afford as residents. They put people in, we've called to find out how much money they're making, and they're making $100,000 for 3 months for each resident, 6 people in a home, and if you add it up, it's $200,000 a month. What this individual is doing now is he's opened up a cafeteria across the street from his rehab place. So what happens now is, and that's the reason that he's clustering right in this neighborhood. And meanwhile, again, my property value has gone down. I'm living across the street from one. The neighborhood is going dark because you never see anyone in these houses except when they're shuffling back and forth to go get their coffee and or their meals. This is an issue that is not just Los Angeles, it's all up and down the state. Long Beach had a huge convention where I think 40 cities went and participated in it. There is a lot of money that's being made by these people, and now in Venice what they have is they have actual people who are investing in these things, buying the properties, fooling around with the titles and so on and so forth, doing quick claims and moving the properties from one to the other. Even if the resident doesn't want to sell to these people, they are they're putting in dummies to buy. So it's a huge problem, and I really wish that you guys would look at this issue very, very carefully.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. We did have one person who stated they submitted a card. Okay, come on up, please. This should be the last speaker.
Good afternoon, Honorable Councilman Cliff Ruff for Councilman Zine, CD3. Councilman wants to support this legislation. We're having serious problems in CD3, and our problems generate more with a deceptive ownership that has a location license at a different location and calls this not a rehab facility, but a dormitory or a commune in this sober college where they're putting 15 to 20 people in a residence. And what everybody said in here is applicable to the same problems we're having at CD3. So Councilman Zion is very supportive of this. We know there's some technical and legal and constitutional issues on this, but I join everyone else and the councilman does in requesting the city attorney to find a lawful way to limit the number of people that can stay in a sober facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ruff. And our last speaker is Jim Summers.
Thank you. I know the day is going on, and we appreciate this. We also very much appreciate that you and Councilman Smith and others have taken this on. This is a problem that, even though it came to our neighborhood council on March of last year, it's a problem that's been going on for 10 or 15 years, and we really appreciate the support. As neighborhood council president of the Granada Hills Neighborhood South Council, on last Thursday, May 8th, we passed a motion which supports Council File number 07-3727, which is Councilman Smith's motion for this committee. And it would pass unanimously. And not only that, we also would like to say that we would like to help the council or the city in any studies you have, anything the council can do to get this moving further. We realize this is a hard problem, and for years everybody's been pointing at everybody else and saying it's a state problem, it's a city problem, it's that, but we're glad you're taking the bulls by the horn, and we're ready to do whatever we can to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Thank you for your support and recommendations. With that, I do have our Councilman Ruizar would like to ask Planning and City Attorney to come to the microphone, please.
Can I ask the City Attorney some questions? Question, please. I introduced a motion about a year ago in Council. My concern was that we had group homes that are regulated by the Department of Social Services, where there were 6 beds or less of these group homes. They were preempted from any local land use decisions. The problem arose where people were purposely having 6 beds or less for these facilities, and we saw an overconcentration of them in some particular neighborhoods. We were quite concerned. We asked for state legislation to change that. I think it's Senator Soto-sponsored legislation. However, it did not, the bill died. I'm very interested, if you don't mind, if we hear back in this report back to see how that relates to sober living homes, because in fact, the problems are the same, but they would require 2 different approaches to address them. It's my preliminary understanding that we do have the power to regulate sober living homes, and I think we should do that. At the same time, as we do that, we should be very aware that some of these group homes we can't regulate because of state legislation, and what it will take for us to change that. And I think it's having a state legislator sponsor legislation that will change that. So I want to make sure that when you get the report back, that we address the issues of sober living homes, but at the same time recognize that some of these are not going to be addressed because we don't have the power to address them. And if you could make recommendations as to how we could address those. It's more of a comment, not a question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, we'll have a written report in 30 days, and hopefully we can stay on top of this one and move it forward. And again, appreciate your cooperation. I do understand the level of concern that's being expressed by the community, and I thank you for making the trip out to City Hall. And it's not the easiest thing to do, especially at this time of the day. But all of your statements will be on file and will proceed. And you've heard from several council deputies representing different districts who are also focused on this concern as well. So with that, we'll move that forward, and we'll be getting a report in 30 days. Roberto, the next item.
Public comment, Council.
Anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.